Chapter 10. 3 Moons.
Hey, smelly human. Are you still alive?
Ryuga could hear Parisia's voice, but she sounded so distant. He felt tired, perhaps more tired than he'd been in a long time. He could barely open his eyes, but he fought to do so. After all, who ignores the pleas of a frantic woman? He forced his eyes open as best he could, but it seemed as if only one was functioning. Half of his vision was a blur, pain shooting through his brow the more he tried to see. He remembered looking up at Parisia's face. She was kneeling over him, the dusk stars twinkling above as she gazed down at him.
Hey, hold on. I'm gonna get you back to Imelda. She'll know what to do.
Parisia said again. She looks really worried, Ryuga noted. But soon he felt the allure of fatigue and once more decided to close his eyes again, despite Parisia's desperate cries. What the? Ryuga could hear voices in the distance. Perhaps Imelda? Parisia? They seemed to be discussing something, but he couldn't be bothered to focus long enough to hear.
And you said he was worse than just a few minutes ago? Yes. He was bleeding everywhere. His skin was badly burned. It was terrible. Ugh. This is why I told you to come back early.
When next Ryuga opened his eyes, it was to the sight of both Imelda and Parisia staring at him. He was back in the hut, once again laying on the straw mat.
See? I told you he'd be okay.
Parisia said. Perhaps she needed convincing herself, and said as much to affirm it.
He's lucky. Anyone else would be dead.
I'm right here. You don't have to keep talking about me like I'm absent. Ryuga's voice was low, almost raspy. Did I die again? He whispered as he began to sit up.
Wait, you've died before?
Parisia asked, her ears perking up in alarm. No, it was a gamer's joke, Ryuga said with a groan as he moved to rub his chest.
Gamer? What's that?
She asked. Nothing. Don't worry about it. Why do I hurt so much?
Because you nearly did die. What were you thinking, taking on a group of death wisps? Even one is enough to fatally injure a normal adult.
Imelda seemed cross with worry, prompting an apology from Ryuga. I'm sorry. I won't almost die anymore. Imelda cut her eyes at the young boy and sat down on her legs, cross-style. She grunted as she folded her arms. So, what happened? Ryuga said as he lay back down.
You got blown up. I thought you were dead. Blood was everywhere. Your face and chest were badly burned.
Parisia began. Oh?
Is that all you have to say?
She began, brandishing her claws. No, it's just, I don't know. I've been seriously hurt before, but I just sort of heal really quickly.
Is that a trait all humans have?
Imelda asked as she looked intently at Ryuga. No, I don't think so. My mom didn't. I know that for sure. Ryuga responded as his thoughts began to wander.
Well, it's getting late. Your clothes are covered in blood. If you can stand, please go wash up and change.
Imelda motioned to a new pair of hand-stitched clothing. I think I can manage, Ryuga said, tutting to himself as he slowly got to his feet and walked outside. Imelda eyed the young boy as he moved, thinking to herself as she watched him exit the hut. For a few moments, all was silent. Then a sharp yell of disbelief pierced the air.
Ah! No way! What is it?
Parisia rushed outside, only to find Ryuga half-naked, staring up at the sky.
There's 3 moons!
He replied, pointing wildly. Parisia and now Imelda, who had come to see what the commotion was, looked at the boy quizzically.
Yes, last time we checked, there were indeed 3 moons.
Imelda said matter-of-factly. That's impossible. Earth only has 1.
Earth? What's Earth?
Parisia asked curiously. What's Earth? Ryuga laughed nervously as he sank to the ground, tears forming in his eyes. I can't believe this, he muttered to himself as he looked up at the sky once more. Well, that definitely explains everything. He was now beginning to cry more than laugh. Both Parisia and Imelda exchanged glances, unsure as to how this should be handled. Rather than saying anything, they simply waited for Ryuga to continue. I know why I've been having such a tough time now, he said as he got to his feet once again.
What? Another planet?
Both of his companions shouted as Ryuga revealed his revelation.
That's not possible, is it, Sensei?
Parisia seemed stricken with disbelief.
Well, that's not totally impossible. It would take a hell of a lot of mana to do something like this. I mean, after all, travel between planets? Most likely, it's not just a different planet. It's probably a completely different reality.
Oh God! I'm stuck in an isekai manga! Ryuga shouted at the top of his lungs as he grabbed his head in panic.
That's even more mind-boggling. I'm out of my depth here, kid.
Imelda said as she placed her hand on her chin. Her mind seemed to be working in overdrive, so much so that Ryuga could almost see wisps of steam shooting from her ears.
So that's why you stink.
Parisia said as she cocked her head to the side. Ryuga only responded with a sigh. I don't stink, he said monotonically.
If you say so.
She whimpered to herself before taking a seat on a nearby tree stump.
Ryuga, I think you should stay with us for the time being,
Imelda finally said, breaking the silence. Ryuga wasn't really sure what to make of this declaration. After all, he still needed to find Akira, if Akira was even out there. He could really be dead for all he knew, sent to another world in the afterlife. So many thoughts were now running through his mind. Was he ever really alive? Maybe his past life was the real illusion, and this is reality. I'm not sure. I honestly don't know what to do.
Your friend, this Akira, she's out there somewhere.
How would you know something like that?
I used a scrap of her clothing to check while you were passed out and mumbling about cola, whatever that is.
Ryuga perked up immediately, running over to Imelda and placing his hand on her shoulders. Really?
Yes. Get away, you stinky little boy. We have sensitive noses. Go wash up first.
Imelda held her nose, kicking Ryuga in the shin several times to shoo him away. It would be another half hour before Ryuga had washed up enough to satisfy the noses of both Imelda and Parisia.
Better, thank you. Now sit. We've got a lot to discuss,
Imelda said as she took a position directly across from Ryuga. She sighed deeply, thinking for a few moments before she began to speak.
Where to begin? There's so much you are oblivious to if you really are from another world. So many mysteries and questions. For now, I guess I should start by telling you more about the world you're now living in and why I'm suggesting you stick with me for the time being. This world, this continent, rather, is known as Pangea. For you to understand, I suppose it's a good idea to simply start at the beginning. In ages long past, there were 32 races which lived on the grand continent of Pangea. Over time, these races grew prosperous and cultivated their strength. But as with most beings who crave power, it was not enough. Soon the lands of Pangea ran red with blood. War was constant, an everyday, never-ending cycle which threatened to engulf not only the races of the continent, but the very land itself. In response to this, it was said that nature itself grew vengeful at the blood it was being forced to absorb. All of the malice and hatred seeped into the soil, creating the very thing that could undo us all. These creatures were essentially magic made sentient, the essence of the earth, given a malicious form. They are called Sen beasts. These beasts appeared all across the continent and attacked all Nekoma indiscriminately. After years and years of constant terror, 7 of the 32 races were driven to extinction. The rest had been pushed to the brink. Around this time is when the gods appeared. The gods of Pangea were powerful individuals who learned to utilize the power of nature, Sen, for their own benefit. By doing so, they were able to combat the threat of the Sen beasts and turn the tide of the Great Beast War. By using their immense power, the gods of Pangea forged a foothold in the remaining races and charged us with a task: cultivate our strength and follow in their footsteps to ensure the survival of our species.
Oh God, I'm definitely stuck in a game. Ryuga placed his head in his hands and a wave of stress hit him.
I'm not sure what you're thinking, but I assure you this is no game. The continent is overrun by Sen beasts. We Nekoma inhabit roughly 13% of the known continent. The rest is under control of the Sen beasts. I say all of this to emphasize a point which I feel you may have learned well already. The danger is real. These creatures are more than the average inhabitant of this land can handle. If you really want to find your friend Akira, you need to cultivate your strength. Not just normal strength will do. You need uncommon strength to stand against the same kind of threats you just lost miserably to.
You mentioned Akira earlier. How do you know she's here? She could still be on Earth for all I know.
No, I'm certain your friend made the journey with you.
But how can you tell? Ryuga shook his head. Tales of demons and gods sounded so foreign to him. Of all the things he'd experienced today, this was the one that he struggled to accept.
Because I'm a trained Sen warrior, my ego allows me to use the special ability called Aura Locator. I used it to check for your friend's presence, and I can feel her. She's still alive, wherever she is. But I also need your help to find her exact location.
I don't quite understand what you mean by Sen warrior or ego, but what do you need me to do? If it will help me find Akira, I'll do it. Whatever it is, Ryuga asked as he sat up attentively.
Come closer and give me your hands,
Imelda requested.
Next, I need you to describe her to me. Her appearance, her manners, anything you can remember. Even the smallest of details. While you do this, I want you to imagine her. Imagine the last time you were with her, words you shared, or perhaps feelings you experienced. Can you do that?
Imelda asked. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Ryuga bowed his head and closed his eyes as he joined hands with Imelda. He could feel a warm sensation flowing into his palms, and in a way, this helped him to relax. He pushed aside the day's events, all of the doubt and worry to find his first memory of Akira which sprang forth. It wasn't long before Imelda too closed her eyes and was greeted with a vast, blank sea of darkness. Soon, flickering flames sprouted and swirled around, almost as if they were being carried to motion by a whirlwind. Imelda searched for one of the red flame amongst thousands and focused on it.
I can see her, but I can't tell where she is. This is very strange. It's almost like her flame is elusive. It shrugs my focus at every turn.
What is this? Ryuga said, having seen the same vision Imelda did.
Boy, did you see my soul seed just now?
Imelda asked, an astonished look on her face. I don't know. I saw you in a dark place surrounded by many flames. Then I saw Akira. Or maybe I felt her, is a better way to say it?
That should be impossible. I've never heard of a person entering someone else's soul sea without a pact.
Imelda seemed genuinely disturbed by the incident.
Is it really that special?
Parisia asked as she finished a bowl of stew.
Yes.
Imelda said as she became further lost in thought. I'll do whatever it takes to find Akira. I'll accept your offer to stick with you and do all that you ask, Ryuga said, bowing his head in respect.
No need for all that. Come, get up, silly.
Imelda seemed a bit embarrassed by his display.
It's getting late, and I must have some time to think before bed. You two take the cots. I'll sleep outside. Get some rest. Training begins in earnest tomorrow.
Imelda said as she closed the hut door behind her.
Confectionery treats for such a young